Hey friends, I'm Maxwell Freud, a queer Minneapolis-based board game designer and the host of Hatched This Way, a limited audio series where I chat with other queer folks in the tabletop industry to learn all about who they are and how they contribute to the hobby by being their authentic selves. And today I am joined by Seppy Yoon. Seppy, how are you doing?
I'm great. Winter ended 7 days ago, so in the space of 7 days, we've gone from 35 degrees to 85 degrees and had a tornado to boot.
Yeah, I still don't have power at my house. It's great.
I'm sorry, too close to home. I didn't mean it.
No, we're far enough away. It's fine. Oh yeah, and we are in real life. This is one of my second real life podcast recording, and I love hanging out with real life people.
Whoa.
So,
and we're here at the fabulous Tower Games. You can edit that out. Yeah, Tower Games in Minneapolis, the premier gaming experience in Minneapolis.
Yeah, we're leaving that in. Shout out to Tower Games for hosting us. So, Seppy, the big question of this podcast is, how do you identify? What are the terms, labels? What are the ingredient list of Seppy Yoon?
Probably biracial, gay, game designer in that order. Yeah. I like queer a lot. Sometimes that slips in. That's old school. There was a lot of debate for decades about whether you could use that.
You think queer is an old school term? Because I feel like, to me, it's like a reclaimed term. Like, it's old school offensive, but it's new school cool.
Oh yeah, this is my second round with it becoming new school after being offensive, being new school again. So yeah, everything 90s is new again. So yeah, so that was a thing. Yeah, I'm not like a gold star or platinum star gay.
What is that? You have to explain it.
Yeah. Gold star gays who are gays who've never experienced any other gender.
Mm-hmm. Sexually. Yeah.
Or whatever their equivalent is, right? Mm-hmm. You know, romantically.
For the gays, it's sexually.
For the gays,
yeah, if we're talking about the gays specifically.
Right. And then, yeah, like, should I know? Like, I don't think of anything else. I'm pretty vanilla that way. I guess vanilla.
I feel like I've met much more vanilla people.
People have asked me, somebody asked me recently, like, what my type was. And I looked at them, I'm like, is sluts a type?
Oh my God. Is easy a type?
Is easy a type?
Oh,
Can you really
goodness.
say this thing? I'm post-dating. I'm post-adult. I like those titles too.
Post-adult?
I am post-adult. I was an adult. I'm post-adult.
Is that pre-post-mortem?
Yeah, like post-mortem. Like so many of the projects I've had and failed or had and succeeded. Yeah, I use a lot of those, but obviously the ones that we can all relate to, the big ones are probably... multiracial is not quite a good fit. Biracial is probably the more accurate. And then gay is the easiest one to wear. And then game designer, though I probably should just say game publisher or project manager. Those are probably harder for me to wear.
Okay.
So these are the titles that I wear.
Well, let's start.
Post-adult, post-adult, I say a lot. Post-dating, I also say those things.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's start with the first one. So talk to me about your experience as a biracial queer man navigating the upper Midwest.
It was hard, like...
in past tense.
It's easier now. And now that I'm post-dating and post-adult, I think I take things more in stride. I don't think it's any easier, but it's easier on me because I have the emotional calluses.
So when you say post-dating, are you really like no? Like
yeah, I'm good at the 3 Fs, like, which is flirting, friendship, and then the other one should be obvious, and it's not f***ing.
This isn't quite the way to end the series. I think
is this spicy? Like, is this too spicy?
I don't know. I think we've worked up to it. I think it's a good shift.
It's a good shift. Like, you can totally bleep me out because I deserve it.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of things to explain.
Yeah, too many things to explain. You can, of course, edit me out but like, obviously, this is not a voice that I would use for a general audience. This is a voice for a queer audience. This is more accepting, right? I think the biggest lesson for anybody who's working up to their Kickstarter or first-time designers or anybody is find your voice, of course, because everybody is looking for something that's true, but also create those bridges and do the most approachable version of that voice. Because, as queer people, we find an inability to find ourselves in other people's content, and we know how bad that feels. And so when you're making your own content, not only should it be for people who you want to, be a part of your audience, but also for all people so they don't feel left out. Does that make sense, or is that fair?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's that it's kind of an aspect of do what you know. I think it's very important that as a creative person, whether you're making games or films, art, whatever, I think it should come from a authentic personal place. I think that's where the best art comes from. Like, tell your story is my way of saying it. So if you're not telling your story, if you're just telling a story for the sake of telling a story, it's probably not the most impactful piece of art you can leave behind.
This is one of the things that I love about the emergence of obviously blogs and small media, Twitch, TikTok, podcasts, is room for individual voices. And since there's so many of them, people are just encouraged. The thing that makes your content the most unique is that it is genuine to you. Your life experience, your period of time, your inability to be the 12th guest and not cause everything to have a After Dark label. These kinds of things that are just uniquely yourself. Seriously, follow me on TikTok. You're going to see a little difference. So post-dating. I was gay married for 17 years. I was married before you could get married in the United States.
So how was it like did you have some kind of formal document that said you were married, or was it?
The Canadians married us. Yeah, it was great.
I don't think I've ever actually met someone who went to Canada and got married before. When was it?
I'm very old.
Was it 2006? Was it 2016?
Yeah, I'm very old.
We've touched on that.
Yes. So, yes, my stories of hearing loss from the 80s and 90s have already come up in this, and and I'm suffering from it now.
Oh, yeah.
2004.
And what about before that? What was your childhood, adolescence like when you were figuring all that out?
I was a good Catholic boy. I was a good Catholic boy. I never had any like gender identity issues. I always, I always identified male. That's great. That was easier on me. I'm glad that happened. I didn't understand. I think I was just, the whole sexual question was just not important until I got to early college. And then I did a lot of catching up.
And I think that is consistent for a lot of people.
Right.
Not, it's not necessarily a queer thing or a gay thing. I think that's we should just say this. I think that's consistent, although
right, but
the gays might hit it a little bit.
There's gay math.
Yeah.
Like what is considered like, slutty for gay people is very different than what is slutty for straight people, right?
I wonder if that's just due to like repression for a lot of us, and then
all right, for me,
generationally,
it's different. We're,
I wonder, yeah,
it's
or is it just kind of the culture, and that's kind of
terrifying.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask about that. So you actually, it is somewhat rare for us to get a chance to talk to people who remember and lived through the AIDS epidemic.
I was really, I was just discovering myself in and around, but it was terrifying. And so this idea that, I know my parents in particular had the issue, like, how can you be gay? You're giving yourself a death sentence, right? I had my relatives who were Korean Southern Baptists clearly said that all gay people with or without AIDS should be put on an island or a camp. And I was like, I was too old. I was not old enough yet to tell them how horrible that was. But that is definitely a thing. And then, of course, I was kicked out of the Navy for Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Oh, yeah.
So these are all things. I've had authentic queer experience.
You have experienced a lot of the things that we've since then tried to redirect.
Having to go someplace else for a gay marriage.
Yeah.
Got kicked out of the service.
Yeah.
Terrified by AIDS. It was a death sentence. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm so excited that with all the science that has come with COVID, the first human trials are on their way for a cure for HIV. I didn't think that would ever happen in my lifetime. And now my real fear is that One Piece isn't going to finish in my lifetime. Other things that I've started.
These are post-adult worries.
These are post-adult worries. Yeah.
Post-dating worries is will One Piece end?
Yeah, post-dating.
Post-adult worries. To be fair, though, I also did not actually. I mean, I guess I did think gay marriage would eventually become legal in my lifetime. I did think that. I did not think it was going to happen as fast as it did. Even that was surprising for me.
Oh no, like being a voting issue and understanding, like now decades of watching the same trick work, like move the needle, like whichever group it is. Like right now, trans people are the political lever to galvanize the base to make things happen, right? And it was gay marriage in 2004 and so forth and whatnot, and this flop back and forth and so forth. And now we're back to women's issues. Like it's horrifying. Like I thought when the Cold War ended, I wouldn't have to worry about that. I thought after less people were dying like so spectacularly from AIDS that there wasn't going to be another pandemic in my lifetime, but there was. Like, oh, plague is going to kill me again. Oh, I didn't think it was nuclear disaster. Like, I did not think, So this, having lived long enough to see the repetition of all these things, Maxwell, this is the part of the podcast that you say, Seppy, you don't seem so old.
You really don't. I mean, they don't have a visual, but you look in your prime.
Thank you. Your lies are what keep me going.
It must be the lack of dating. Maybe that's what's doing it. Just have all this extra energy.
A friend of mine recently is like, Seppy, you need to get on Grindr. And I'm like, no. He's taking me through. It's like, look. And he's like taking me through.
And you're like, torso.
I'm like, no. And he's like, what's that signal? Oh, that's my husband seeing that I'm on Grindr. Don't worry about it. No.
It's a thing.
I'm like, no. I have some bad gay qualities, and the worst one for that kind of stuff is I have an inability to find anybody attractive that I could not have a conversation with.
I think that should be a bare minimum, but a lot of people don't mind.
For
that's
some
not
gay
what they're
people,
looking
that
for.
would practically make me a demisexual, and I am not.
Yeah. All right.
Like, no, I obviously have these real urges that happen, but if they all disappear when you open your mouth, that is a real problem for me. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, please be able to, like, I don't have to care about what you care about, but you have to care about it, right? I can't talk about the weather and traffic more than whatever. Did we talk about it for 5 seconds? We talked about it for.
You talked about it.
I know, it's just a warm up. Come on.
Are we dating now? No,
no, but I'm post-dating now.
Oh, we're post-dating. We're already done with the relationship.
Let's talk about post-adult, post-dating. Okay.
I thought we were.
Adults are... adolescents are about finding their place in the world, adult world. And adulthood is about these accomplishments. And dating is often about getting to the next place. What if in being, you have no agenda other than to continue, and in seeing someone, this moment is the goal? And that's hard for people to understand. And that's sort of also why Taoists are the most unconsoling people ever. Did you see that? I often say crazy shit on my Facebook feed, but I was like, I told somebody recently, go ahead and follow your dreams. They're as real as anything else.
Yeah, you got to manifest them, right?
You're like, okay. They're like, I don't know how to feel about that. Exactly.
It's just some words.
Did the words help? Did the words not help?
If something resonates for you, great. If it doesn't resonate for you, leave it there.
Yeah, just leave it there. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Or pick it up later. It's fine.
Like laundry.
Like laundry, exactly. Sometimes
Words
the
are like
underwear
laundry.
just sits there, and the socks, the bobas just sit there, going, I'm too expensive to be on the floor, and you're just like, no, you're staying right there.
Learning
Bombas. I'm sorry, Bombas.
Learning so much about you. Just because I think it is something that I wanted to talk on, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we can talk about it, is I'm from, like, a younger generation, and I had to learn about the AIDS epidemic.
So much younger.
I'm but a wee babe. But I had to learn about the AIDS epidemic secondhand through, I'm in the Gay Men's Chorus. So I've actually done interviews with a lot of the surviving members who have been in the chorus 35 years plus now at this point. And it's interesting to see how, like, just it shaped their perspectives in life now. It's really hard for me, even just like talking to them, it's hard to really get a perspective of what it was like, to how they described it to me is they wouldn't answer the phone because they knew if the phone rang, it was just another one of their friends dying. And they said every weekend you're going to 1 or 2 funerals. And it was just back to back. And, you just watch people in the chorus specifically just like disappear. And we actually did a whole concert based on the book Two Boys Kissing, which it's a really good book. It's very heavy, where it's written from the perspective of the victims of the AIDS epidemic, looking down on young queer people today and talking about what they experienced and what they're hoping for the people while we're still having struggles, but different struggles in some ways. Some are the same, some are different. But it's just, I think about it in the sense that there's so many role models or people who would have been out there who could have been on the front lines advocating for us, who we just lost in a huge way. It's wild. I think that's one of the things that I think has started to drive me more is I want to kind of help make up that space that we were missing from that hole that was left.
Yeah, we had a whole generation of people lost.
Yeah.
In their prime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just when they're finding themselves and all the kinds of stuff. Yeah. There's some surreal qualities to this stuff. Like, experiencing media and people, like, talking about the 80s like it was the best decade ever is very different for somebody who's Asian, who we had a lot of Asian hate crime at that time. We had Vincent Chin, and then we have somebody, able to bypass security and yell at Ronald Reagan because they're covered in bleeding sores. Like, it's hard. Like, yeah. But I guess that's also a little bit about being post-adult. I can care, but I can also allow myself to let somebody else take up that torch. My struggles now, I think, are much smaller than they were when I was younger. I was taking on the world. Like, I joined the service to write a book about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And one of the things I did was I volunteered at the Gay Community Center in Orlando when I was in naval nuclear power. And I collected testimonials from former veterans who ended up showing up and one of the guys in particular was a glider pilot from World War II. And that was surreal. Him telling the stories about and the story, like, we didn't have enough airplanes, so bombers pulled gliders behind them to land Jeeps for D-Day. And so they needed to know some basics amounts of flying, but not enough. And so the surreal nature of, you trust me to do this thing, but you don't trust me to be myself.
Oh, yeah.
I was in the naval nuclear power. You trust me with the reactor, but I'm not allowed to say I'm gay. That's what I got kicked out for. I have an honorable discharge for homosexual acts, and I got kicked out for saying I'm gay.
Hopefully you can wear that as like a badge of honor now.
At this time, I talk about it more now than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Veterans Day is weird. Memorial Day is weird. It's weird. I got out way before 9/11. It allowed me to have a very different life. and a very different interaction with reality before the .com era, and so yeah, it was a thing. Is this on topic? Like,
yeah,
I feel like I have wandered off into weird places.
This is
Maxwell fans only.
No, this is literally what I enjoy about doing things like this, is letting it kind of go. I could ask you some pre-written questions, but they wouldn't be very insightful because I don't know you on that level before I got here. So I love that you're...
Peter should have warned you. You're like, Peter should have been like, Seppy, oh, God, overshare.
No, Seppy was like, oh, yeah, I'll hook you up. I don't know. I don't know if I want to like shift into board games yet because I want to like...
I love board games.
Mine for more stories, but...
I'm filled. I'm like an old guy piñata. Hit me with the stick and I will... burst out into an old guy story. I have so many of them at this point.
Let's talk about it. How did you get involved in the board game industry?
That's a good question. So, I used to be an editor for a gay youth magazine in the Twin Cities, in the 90s. And if it's the late 90s and you could say the word internet, you could get a job in .com. And so my magazine was also fully online, and I did all the photography for it. So I ended up helping Best Buy with its transition to digital backs. I helped them with their workflow, like how Asian and nerdy is that, to shoot with digital backs. I came up with the most low-tech solution for this. They were some really low-tech solutions for shooting stuff. Like, I literally gave them plastic overlays to put on the back of their cameras so that they could, okay, if it's not this big in this thing, this is what you're doing. So they had 8 bays shooting all the time professionally, and that kind of stuff. And then I helped them automate by scripting using Photoshop to get all these products to look comparable.
And all that's automated now.
Yeah, all that's, yeah, it's great. Now everybody has gone past that. Yeah, that skill set not useful anymore. And then that ended up making me qualified to work for Medtronic.com. I helped with their ad campaign for Dick Cheney's pacemaker.
You're just hitting all the Twin Cities. You're just hitting them one after the other.
I've been a lot of places. I was in a Finger Hut catalog. I was in a Best Buy commercial. Yeah, these kinds of things.
Board games.
But board games.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, focus. My focus lacks focus. So that ended up, I became an adult. Through .com, I ended up being manager for one place. Then I got into software as a service. I was marketing manager for them, and then I was marketing director, and then I was VP of marketing. And then, no, let's reverse that order. I became director of marketing, and I attempted to call my father, and he said, "When are you going to make VP of marketing?" When I told him, that was his exact reply. And so I did, and I called him, and then I immediately quit.
Out of spite, or was it planned?
I'm Asian. I'm a little spiteful. Like, there's a little thing. Not maybe right after, but very close after that. That is, and then I was like, I had let my ex-husband take 3 years off. And he's like, "Hey, what are you going to do?" I think I'm going to start a board game company. So, in the .com era, people were terrified of letting you go. And so I was working at Medtronic, and I would get my work done, and they were terrified that I would go someplace else. So they said, "Hey, just do what you want. Just be on call." And I'm like, "Anything I want? It's mine. You don't care?" "Yeah, just as long as you're there and you're not disrupting people and you're ready to do work." And so for 6 months, they paid me to sit in a desk 4 out of the 5 days a week working on a board game.
Yeah.
And I did, yeah. But that's probably not where my board game journey started. My board game journey started probably on my Atari 1400.
They had board games on there, or just games in general?
I think the first game that I remember that was any any substance to it was a reworking of Car Wars. Yeah, Steve Jobs. It had lots of charts. I did, way back when. So that's a long time ago. But I was always, I started playing chess early. I played Monopoly by myself for years. Monopoly is a terrible solo game, just so you know.
If anyone could do it, I feel like you could handle it.
I played so much solo Monopoly. I was a really lonely kid.
Really good at negotiating.
Yeah, these kinds of things. And so, so I guess I have been writing board games since the 80s. Maybe 80s. No, 70s. Like 70s or 80s, and depending on what you consider to be an actual board game and what's just kids doing dumb crap. And I revisited again during the dot-com era, and then the crash of 2008 gave me the opportunity then to take it seriously again. And then I wrote End of the Line then, which is post-apocalyptic family survival, which I sold out of. Yeah, it's great. Woo! And I tried to get a publisher to take that game, but I was doing all the wrong things, and so we decided to kickstart it. And the rest is Fight in a Box history.
Was that early Kickstarter? I feel like early board game Kickstarter.
I should have done it.
Is that a thing?
I should have did it right at 2010. That was the time to do it. I could have done that kind of stuff, but I ended up waiting to 2013. Which was much later as far as Kickstarter history and prime timeness goes. And my first game is actually Squirrel or Die, and we made this Etsy-like version of Squirrel or Die. I made 1,200 of these copies by hand. By hand, I meant I fed them into a laser machine and scrubbed the pew-pew off of the tiles and then bagged them and put them together and so forth and whatnot. And I sold them like Girl Scout cookies, very expensive Girl Scout cookies, going from convention to convention. Because my deal with my ex-husband was that I could do my company, but we would never it would always have to be self-supporting. And so we've never been in debt. I don't think until these SBA loans from COVID did we even take out a loan. And so
Sure.
Yeah. That was old and rambly and not nearly as interesting.
That was good. I think you'll love it.
No, does that answer your board game journey question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Where do you see yourself in board games or the industry? Maybe games in general. Is there anything specifically that is like, oh yeah, this is totally me?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I asked that to myself before every major project cycle. Our project cycle usually starts in January with the gauntlet, what I call it, which is the early conventions right on top of each other, starting with Protospiel, Minnesota. You should go to Protospiel, Minnesota. And we test whether or not the game is good enough to take to convention testing. In convention testing, we take it from our diehard fans and say, hey, is this something you could support? Or is this something we should change? Every one of December, after PAX Unplugged, and before I wind up for the next gauntlet, there is that question every year. Where do I want to go with board games and why? The last couple of games have been sort of therapy. They've been small and they've been fun to do because in 2018, my creative well completely dried up because of tragedies having to do with my ex. And and so Hedgehog Cop was literally me seeing if the creative well was empty, and there was only this one little drop at the bottom, and it was this idea that hedgehogs should dance with each other because of the hedgehog dilemma. Do you know what the hedgehog dilemma is?
No, I don't.
Did you ever see Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Yes.
Okay, you know that Shinji should just get in the frickin' robot?
Yeah.
Okay. Shinji, they describe Shinji's problem as the hedgehog dilemma.
Huh.
And that has stuck with me since the 90s. And so a game about dancing and cooperating with another person despite the hedgehog dilemma had always stuck. And so that was the last thing. I was like, if I can't make this game, I'm just going to be done. And so I did. I made that game. Our current creative director, he came on board for that project. It was wonderful to work with him. And I learned to love again. And then we tried to do the update to End of the Line, but we launched that Kickstarter at the beginning of the pandemic, and people did not think a game about the end of the world during the end of the world was funny.
It's a stretch, a very, very specific, very specific post-adult probably market looking for that.
That game is fantastic. It does have unconventional families as part of an expansion pack, and people, my queer fans always bug me about it.
You made us an expansion, Seppy?
It's a mini expansion.
A mini expansion?
Yeah, you've got to get it. You got to be a real fan to get it. And they're like,
what?
They're like, no, I don't include it with the thing. You can just get it.
Oh my God.
You got to get it. And they're like, Seppy, this game is so much harder playing with the queer folks. I'm like, yeah, it's like real life.
It's a metaphor.
They're like, you are awful. I'm like, it's a game where people line up to get resources and they die horribly. Like, what part of this did you not understand?
Yeah. I appreciate that you asked that question every year. I think it's worth.
I have to.
Yeah.
There are going to be more than 3,500, probably. There are going to be more than 3,500 SKUs added to board gaming in just 2022. And I think that's down from its high of over 4,000 last year.
People were looking for things to do last year. And manufacturing prices weren't ridiculous last year. There was still hope.
And everything is, things are... Board gaming doubled in size last year. There's a lot of and the market is really figuring itself out. But figuring out where your voice is in this cacophony of people saying, please pay attention to me. Like, where is your fandom? Like, why does it matter? Like, who you are as a game designer. I tried to be as invisible as possible until 2018.
As like a personality, like you were just
a
name on a box type thing.
And if you've ever seen any of our games, you'll realize my name is not on any of the boxes.
Oh, it's not even on the box. You're like a ghost designer.
No, it's in the instructions.
Oh, it's there,
but it's not on the box. Like Peter and Patrick Yang, Peter. Yeah. Their names, they're co-designers and co-developers for Mouse Cheese. Mm-hmm. That box is tiny. There's no place for Yoon, Yang, and Yang on that box. And people go like, what is this game already? Like Mouse, Cheese, Cat, Cucumber. That would have been too much for them. Their brains would have exploded. They would immediately say, this game is not for me. It's too weird. So
I'll take your word for it.
No, it's great. It's mind melting. It's really, really hard. We finished the solo campaign rules for our $13.50 game that is tiny box. It's like 3.5 by 3.5 by half an inch. Guess how many pages, Maxwell, the solo campaign rules are in that size?
4.
80.
What?
It's 80 pages.
I don't think I have that one. I have the base game.
You do. You have the base game, and that's the booklet size. And so that booklet has there's another booklet that's one of the solo campaign modes. There's another book that's another solo campaign. The solo campaign mode, or solo modes. There's 2 solo modes that are same size books, but they're PDFs. They were part of the Kickstarter circles. And then there's a campaign that links them to the 2 of them together, and the 2 of them together. It includes the rules, so you don't have to look back. And so it is 80 pages.
So you talk about games that you've made with extremely long campaign booklets. What are some of your favorite, go-to, I want to have a good time titles? And if that's too hard, I always like to give the option.
No.
Oh, no, okay.
I love people who are ostentatious in their game design, unapologetically so.
I love a strong choice.
Yeah, Kingdom Death Monster is not for anybody, but I love that game. That game is horrifying.
A very dedicated following.
It has it is unapologetically itself. So games that are unapologetically itself, I like a lot.
Describe that quickly in case someone's listening and does not know about Kingdom Death Monster and its infamy.
So it's like Greek mythos monsters, and you start fighting them with a piece of rock wearing a loincloth, and the monster tears you and other villagers apart. And using the carcass of these awful monsters, you build a civilization.
And it was, for the long time, one of the highest funded board game on Kickstarter.
Yes, because it has a super interesting model. For people who follow like Kickstarter lore, it started as a set of miniatures.
The lore.
Yeah, like it does. Like from Jerry said in the pre-times before Jamie Stegmaier
in 2010.
The way back when. So it started as a series of miniatures, and then say, hey, well, we want some more miniatures. Well, would you want us to add a game? And they're like, yeah, let's add a game. And then that game added, and then so forth and on. Like
it's extremely expensive. It's just tons of
$1,700 was the all-in price for whatever. I think like if you buy retail, the individual pieces parts, it's like $5,000.
And so I think that's part of their market is people who wanted that like, oh my God, shock, like sticker shock value on a game on their shelf. Like,
unapologetically, there are gamers who will say, I want this thing. I do not care how much it costs. And I played a lot of that because a buddy of mine owns it. I don't buy games anymore because I'm post-adult. If you adults have money, I do not have money.
You play other people's games.
I have to. I am lucky that the sommelier here at Tower Games, he brings me forward what he thinks is the hotness and things that will inspire my game design.
Tower Games has a sommelier.
It does. Like, this game is for you, or this game is the one that should be on your radar, and why.
It pairs nicely with...
right, sadness, or
I was gonna say
dating.
I was going to say like a port or a...
I was going to talk about flavors of life, but
okay,
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you need a solo game, clearly.
And I need a drink.
So, let's see. I'm a role player at heart, so I'm still a sucker for Dungeons and Dragons. People have finally realized that Dungeons and Dragons is an interesting combat simulator, and it's really approachable. But there are other struggles which can teach people. And so this idea that you can learn or interact with their mechanics for, like, politics and for conversation. There are other games that are sort of good for that.
Role-playing is such a nice, I'm trying to think of the word, lubricant for, like, social interactions. In my opinion.
Say it again. Oh my gosh.
No. Because like I'm not the most socially type A person who's going to walk up and be like, oh, hey, how's it going? Let's jump into a game. But if you give me like, here's your character, here's your quest, I can talk to you and we can have a good time. And then it just greases the wheels for a more comfortable interaction relationship after that.
No, absolutely. Games bring people together. There's a study about like conservatives and liberals in the UK, and before people were able to spout their beliefs, they were forced to do activities or play games together. And as soon as they were, these bridge of communications, if you like somebody before they open their mouth, then you have a chance to actually talk to them about why they feel the way that they do. And so that is very interesting. And I think our current political climate really is trying to keep us separated, like, from gaming algorithms and give money and trying to incite, again, the reasons why we hate each other rather than the reasons we connect with each other. It's sort of a thing. Dread. Have you ever played Dread as far as a role-playing game?
Yes.
Unapologetically,
I love Dread.
Dread is fantastic.
I have a scenario ready to go that I'm going to force my friends to play with me around Halloween time because I love Dread. It's very scary. I think I've described it before on this series, actually.
I'm glad. Yes, people should know about Dread. Unapologetically itself. Yeah. Experimental. I sort of like that a lot in the games. When you fun is your life and your livelihood, you start to have a different relationship with fun.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself really excited about the theory of fun, and that's really interesting to me. But then for my own sort of like mental release time, I end up cleaning the kitchen and doing HR work for people.
Because who doesn't?
Because I'm post-adult. Now
Yeah.
this stuff can be funny. Like people who work in HR often are like the modern equivalent of human traffickers, particularly recruiters. And so doing anything to make sure that those people get their comeuppance, it brings me joy.
Because you mentioned it, I'm actually interested in your opinion or perspective on, I think, the moderates in the gaming industry who are of the mindset that gaming, like you said, brings people together and it shouldn't be political.
I don't think you should tell anybody what they should or should not be. I think everybody can be on their own journey. I think you can focus on bringing people together, but by telling people that they can't talk about their pain, you're really not bringing them together.
Right.
I think the fight fans are good in this way. We have wildly conservative and wildly liberal fight fans, like preppers, the place where like super liberals and super conservatives come back together. And since I have a game about post-apocalyptic survival, like Fallout brings these folks together. And the rule is everybody needs to feel like they have a place here. Nobody can discriminate. And as long as you do those things, then it's fine. Don't do something that hurts another person with your actions and so forth. So yeah, Fighting Fox has a lot of very Christian fans, and they would consider themselves Christian conservatives, but they're not homophobic. They're, I'm outly gay, they support me and so forth and whatnot. That is not their thing, but they would still identify as Christian and conservative, right?
I think when people say political, I don't think they always literally mean politics, like Republican conservative all the time.
Okay.
You said homophobic. I'm like, I guess that gets lumped in, but in the way it's like we can't not be political. Like my existence is political. So to ask me to like not bring politics to anything is impossible for me.
I have a very sarcastic and strong point of view in the worlds that I create. Right? End of the line is the jungle, the board game. Or no, processing is the jungle, the board game. End of the line is the road, the board game. Like, not really, because I couldn't pay for those IPs. But you get it. Like, into like spiritually.
Yeah, they said no.
Yeah, they said no.
They said please don't.
Like this. Please don't do that.
They said stop calling us. Go home. It's been a week.
Well, God, it's like you got their message from my answering machine. We're living in times that people sometimes need to talk about things, and understanding why we're getting together and everybody understanding that this is that place, right? Fight in the box games are also a little bit dark, and we all have this idea that one of the ways to deal with your pain is by laughing at it. And you have to laugh at your own pain. And then if you laugh at your own pain, other people are allowed to laugh at your own pain. But if you're just laughing at somebody getting hurt, that's bullying.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not interested in that. But dark humor and self-deprecating, like the right side and that kind of stuff, that's here. And that's sort of old school gay too.
Yeah.
Like the young gays, it's a little,
That is kind of, it's interesting you mentioned that. I do think that does kind of shape our, like as a culture, as a gay culture, like our comedy. If you think of like Lady Bunny, she is extremely inappropriate, extremely dirty and dark, but that's how you cope with watching all your closest friends die around you. Like you have to find something.
Yeah. Like John Waters is dark.
Oh yeah.
Like how many, like seriously, like how
and we
many,
resonate with it because
and he's laughing at it, and he and like where is that appropriate? And the line is when it's yours or when it's somebody that you've gotten implicit acceptance that you're allowed to do this, right? Because it is part of the thing. But it's not okay for somebody to randomly mock you for it or laugh at you for something that,
Yeah, I think to tie it back to your authentically yourself, I mean, John Waters, using his humor and like unique sense of storytelling, I think what he does is he draws in people who deeply resonate with everything he makes. What he makes is not for a lot of people.
No, not even the people in our community.
But if it's for you, it is absolutely for you, like for life. You don't kind of like John Waters. You love John Waters. I think that's really good design. Like, make stuff that people love.
I tell people it's better if you have people hate it and people love it than everybody being meh.
Yeah.
Like, if you are not getting somebody to love it, focus on that first, right? This can be somebody's game.
And the easiest way to do that is to just be authentic.
Yeah, no, that's one way. I think that's the start of the journey.
Yeah.
Is be authentic, because you are your perspective. And by doing, you will discover things about yourself. You'll discover things about your fans. You'll discover things where you can grow. This journey has been amazing in board gaming. And one of the things I have loved most, and I didn't think so because I was raised in an environment where I was told everybody is watching you and they all want you to fail. Thanks, Mom. Is how much being part of the industry has helped me recover from tragedy.
Literally, even doing these 12 episodes has been really great for me, especially post-pandemic, where I felt very, even in the course, I think the course helped a lot during the pandemic. I was helping with the virtual concerts to keep us connected, not physically by any means, but at least we could like emotionally connect with each other and like making something together. So I think this has been another extension of that, of being able to reach out to people in the industry and make me feel, remind me that we have very different journeys, but at the same time, very similar journeys and interests.
I like that a lot. We are all on different paths, but I think fun is more universal than you think. And there's just something magical about a game. I've always thought that this ability to transcend yourself and be this problem or this character or this kinds of stuff allows you to turn back and then look at yourself, or at least that's the goal, or at least that's what my English degree has told me.
Yeah. English degree. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, but my naval nuclear power. I got one of those certificates, an English degree. Yeah, these kinds of things.
Yeah, I have a degree in fine arts and crafts.
Nice. Like
I added the crafts myself.
Oh.
BFA.
Oh.
Bachelor. Sure. I'll take it. Oh my gosh. Is there anything you're seeing in the industry right now that makes you really excited or hopeful for the future?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. We talked about a number of titles. I like the fact that the market is changing. I think that creates opportunity. It's not easy, but there's more opportunity to make things locally. There's more opportunity because there's more gamers. The biggest thing that I'm excited about currently is the shift in media. I think new board game media is emerging with new channels and new things that is really revitalized discussion and my thoughts. And so like Grant's Game Rex, I love Grant, Danny Standring, Hungry Gamer, all these folks are emerging as just working hard, building a following, and making it happen. So I'm excited about new board game media. Games are evolving. The speed at which gameplay is improving. The amount of time a game takes is becoming shorter. The execution of those game mechanics is becoming more refined. People are taking more risks. Like successful designers are allowed to do crazy things like, I'm Yuri Rosenberg, I'm going to do 3 in the series and you're just going to take it. And like these kinds of things. Yeah.
I think my last question is, if people want to connect with you, follow you, support everything you do, how do they do that? Where do they go?
Best place to be supportive would be to sign up for the Fight in a Box newsletter at fightinAbox.com. We have a 50% open rate. The content's that good. Or follow us on Kickstarter, or if you like social media and you'd like to hear me talk about why games happen, how games happen, and the sort of fabric of games, and also our upcoming stuff. TikTok is a great place. It is an experiment that I have embarked on since last September, and that I have fully embroiled now in. Yeah, I have like the smallest TikTok following of verified accounts in all of TikTok. It's pretty spectacular.
Wow.
That's not actually true. My buddy Rick has that one, but mine is really tiny. And so people are like, how did you get verified with your 3 followers? No, just kidding. I have almost 2,100 followers. Look at me. Yeah.
They can't.
Oh, that's right. They can't. That's the thing. You.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that it? Is that everything? That's great.
I think so. My new title's coming up, which is Conquest Princess, using fashion to overcome galactic tyranny. The campaign is multi-scenario. Look for that coming out later this year.
80 pages, give or take.
It's probably gonna be it's a big box game.
Nice.
We go when it is our return to big box game. So it is gonna be a modern big box bag builder, multi-scenario that also can be combined into a campaign. Our friend again, Peter Yang, is helping me write that game with his buddy Patrick, or his brother Patrick, and yeah, we're making it happen. It's great.
Excellent. That's all I got. At the end, I do a disclaimer here, which is we are just two queer folks. We do not speak for the entire LGBTQIA plus community.
Thank you.
Nor are we trying to. The best way to be an ally is just to keep listening, learning, and remember we're trying to get through this together.
Together. And listening. And together.
That's all I got. So if you're listening, know that you're loved and perfect just the way you are. I was so excited to do this audio series. I was so blessed to have people like Seppy.
Well, at least you had 11 good episodes.
No, this was so much fun. Yeah, I would 100% do another one. Don't know when, but, one day.
Okay.
So thank you all for listening, and until next time.
Thanks so much.